So first of all, let's give a nice round of applause for Marty Crapper and the King of Swing. All right, we're going to have a few speeches. We're going to try and keep it short because there's a cake there that everybody's hoping to get into sooner rather than later. So I'm going to call on our provincial member, Steve Clark, who's a good friend of mine, to open things up with a few words. Steve.
Thanks so much, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor and a privilege as the Member of Provincial Parliament for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes to be here for this wonderful milestone in the history of Rideau Lakes. So I was thinking about what to say, you know, and you're always, both as an MPP, but also because I'm Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, you always want to talk about history, right? So you think maybe we want to talk about what happened in 1998. And I saw the beautiful press release that the Township had done about how that the Township was forged right at the start of the ice storm. And I decided instead of that, because that's part of our history and someone else is going to probably mention that, I'm going to talk about my relationship just briefly with Rideau Lakes. In 2003, I had not been mayor of Brockville for almost 20 years. I hadn't yet started working for MPP Bob Brunson. I wasn't the MPP. And your first Reeve in the Township, Howard French, who's sitting right there, asked me to be involved in an event called the International Plowing Match. And I didn't know anything about the International Plowing Match. I knew about organizing events, but over a 3-year period, just before I started working for Bob, I spent a lot of time in Rideau Lakes Township. I was here every month, and I met some of the most incredible people and friends that I will have my entire life. That's my memory of early days of Rideau Lakes. So when I was driving here today from Brockville, I saw that very first sign, the very first township sign where it says, Rideau Lakes welcomes you. And that to me meant the most of anything. That over 25 years, the one thing I can say about Rideau Lakes, it's one of the most welcoming communities, one of the most hardest working communities that had an event that, you know, in terms of the very first plowing match, the one we had this year was fantastic in Rideau Lakes, but that very first plowing match was the first time in this riding's history that every corner of the riding, every township, every town, every city worked together on one singular showcase, showcasing this beautiful riding, and it was right here, just down the road in Rideau Lakes. So that's my memory. That's what I wanted to share with you today, the beauty of this community, the people, and on behalf of not just myself as the MPP, but on behalf of the government of Ontario, I want to congratulate the mayor and council, both present and past, the township staff, and the very hard-working volunteers that are here. I've said this many times before. We've had an event, and Linda Carr's heard me say this many times, the Ontario Volunteer Service Awards in this riding. By far, the people that we honor, there is a huge contingent from Rideau Lakes Township, far more than every other community combined. And that's because this community has its act together, they celebrate their volunteers, and they celebrate hard work. So God bless all of you, many, many more anniversaries, and on behalf of the province, I'm doing double duty today. I bring regrets from MP Michael Barrett, but I have a scroll for both MP Barrett and I, and the one thing MP Barrett wanted me to say was to express to you, Your Worship, that he wishes the township many, many more years of success. So all the best, and I'll make this quick presentation to His Worship. Thank you. There you go. Happy anniversary.
Thank you, Steve, and keep up the good work at Queen's Park for us. I know that Anytime we have a question or a concern, you're very open, and we're able to. We don't always agree with you, which is not always a bad thing.
Okay.
But
Rideau Lakes.
But at least you're going to hear from us. Let me call now on Warden Nancy Peckford, who I'm pleased to say is one of my colleagues at County Council. I do note in the crowd that we have two other members of county. Not necessarily County Council, but from Leeds and Grenville. We have the Mayor of Brockville here, Matt Wren. Thank you, Matt, for coming. And we have the new Mayor of Marrickville-Wolford, Mike Cameron. Thank you again, Mike, for coming as well. So, my friend Nancy, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Mayor Hoogenboom, and thank you, Minister Clark, for harkening back to the IPM days, because as you know, a second international plowing match was hosted this past fall in Grenville, Ontario, and I kept saying to myself, if Rideau Lakes and the town of Crosby could have done it, we could too. And it really was, I think, the fact that you had forged ahead early in your days as an amalgamated municipality, in partnership with the counties and much of the farming community to make that happen. It really gave us, I think, the courage and the inspiration to bring it back to the United Counties and host it in Grenville County. So I think, that achievement is really emblematic of what you've accomplished over 25 years and may have been rough and tough in the beginning, as I think it was in many parts of Eastern Ontario, but I think what it demanded, what amalgamation demanded, is that we really dug deep and we called on our strengths and we looked to how we could boldly forge, I think, an auspicious future together, not just as respective municipalities, but as the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. And certainly I can tell you, you have a wonderful champion in your current mayor, who's really, I think, done great service on your behalf at the United Counties. And I've learned lots about the municipality as a consequence of Mayor Hoogenboom's many interventions, and we were together on the planning committee as chair and vice chair. So I think, as you move forward beyond these 25 years, as you take a moment to celebrate what is today, I just want to say I'm incredibly confident in what you can continue to achieve. And I'm a proud mayor of North Grenville, Grenville, Ontario, where the spirit of volunteerism and community service is alive and well. And I know we're often referring to other municipalities that are doing it as good, if not better than we are. And I think we're in fine company here in Rideau Lakes. So congratulations. And the achievements when you think of broadband, again, a very innovative way to begin to bring a new kind of connectivity to this region. When you think of tourism, when you think of environmental preservation of your lakes and water system, and Mayor Hoogenboom has been very vocal about that, certainly at the counties and beyond. I think when you think of how you've come together and collectively worked, I think to be innovative and to be wholly committed to the well-being of this community and this municipality is truly impressive. So as Warden of the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, a heartfelt congratulations for all that you've done, and I wish you well in the next 25 years and look forward to getting to know you better. All the best.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Very kind words. I may, if I decide to run again in 4 years, I may be calling you. Let me take a moment and just say a few words myself now. It's like celebrating a birthday, 25 years, and and we came together 25 years ago. It was not easy. I think we're probably one of the very few municipalities in Ontario that actually brought 5 separate municipalities together. And I know some people in the room know about 1 or 2. I know that Marrickville, for example, had 2 municipalities. But you take the struggles of 1 or 2 coming together and multiply it for 5 municipalities come together, and you can see what the challenges would have been back there. And my hat goes off to those politicians, both before the merger and right after the merger. Because right after the merger, of course, we had the ice storm, which again tested our resolve as a community. It tested our abilities to work together. At the time, I was the chief administrative officer in Smith Falls, so I knew how hard and how much struggles were going on in the rural municipalities around us that were out of power for anything up to 18 days. Whereas we in Smith Falls, we were out for a couple of days. and we helped shoulder that burden. We provided free services to the folks in the townships around us, and I think we forged a great bond during the ice storm. I do, and I want us to make sure that we thank all those that contributed to building this great community over the years. You'll see pictures on the wall, but it goes back even further than that. I know there's folks in the room here who were on council of the separate municipalities ahead of time, and I can't name them all because I'm going to miss someone, but we owe them a great debt of gratitude as well. I would in particular like to acknowledge the representative of Rideau Lakes First Council of 1998 that are with us today, and these are in alphabetical order. We have the first Reeve, Howard French. Howard. I had Bob Brzee down, but I'm not sure if he's here. Is he here? He wasn't able to make it. Okay. We have Linda Carr.
Whoa.
She was the first member of the current council as well. William Morris had indicated that he would like to be here. He hasn't made it either. I don't see him. And John Ziegler. John, welcome. Those that are not able to be with us, Paul Smith passed away. We have Betty James here. Betty, welcome. I did not see Rita Purcell or Sharon Donnelly or Ron Plunkett. Now, any of those folks here? All right. Anyway, that was your first council. That was the council that was charged with trying to pull, 5 separate official plans together and zoning bylaws and 5 sets of rules and 5 different service levels when it came to roads and plowing and garbage pickup and things of that nature. And we, in fact, continue to work on some of that, trying to standardize the services across the entire municipality. And one of the things that we did a year ago was standardize the waste pickup with respect to if you were on a private road, how you got service, if you got service, to make sure that those services were consistent right across the entire township. So that's a good thing. I'd also like to recognize our former members of council that might be in attendance. Carolyn Brzee, I did not see Carolyn. Is Carolyn here? No. Andrews Carson, he's here. Welcome, Andrew. We have Bob Lavoie. Welcome, Bob. Now, it was mentioned before, I think a quarter of a century later, Rideau Lakes is still leading rapid municipal change and modernization. I think a lot of the things that we've done in the last number of terms of council have been very, very progressive. So, for example, I mentioned the community-wide curbside collection. We've had major road hard surfacing campaigns. We've had improvements to the private road grants, and a lake association committee was formed, and we provide annual grants to those. I actually attended the AGM for the Big Rideau Lake Association this morning by Zoom, and they acknowledged the fact that they received almost a $6,000 grant from the township, unconditional, to do with the environmental programs that they want to champion. We've constructed new or expanded community halls in North Crosby, Elgin, and South Elmsley. We've also committed to the ongoing village revitalization campaign, which has seen major public investments in many of our municipalities. We've seen streetscaping improvements, and we're trying to elevate the rural villages in the municipality as the commercial and social hubs of the community. And we know we're a rural municipality. We don't have that one large municipality that the entire municipal government sort of works around or works with. But we have all of these small hamlets and villages which are incredibly important. We also, it was mentioned, we spearheaded the local fiber project rollout, which sees fiber to the home available in all the villages, the key tourism nodes, and major connecting routes. This indirectly has impacted business and residents who rely on high-speed internet service, and this is the infrastructure of the future. And I've had people from outside of our municipality tell us that we're leaders in rural Ontario when it comes to this particular issue, and some other issues. It's a good time. I want to make sure that I introduce our current members of council that are here. We have Sue Dunfield. Sue, welcome. We have Councillor Jeff Banks. Jeff, welcome. We have Councillor Marsha Maxwell. Welcome. I've already introduced Linda Carr, but she's here as well. Linda. We have Joan Delaney. Joan, welcome. And we have a new counselor, Debbie Hutchins. Welcome, Debbie. And the Dean of our council, Ron Pollard. This, of course, is a proud moment for all of us. As the township celebrates its past, we're trying to keep a keen eye on the future. Moving forward, the township is pursuing opportunities to celebrate our diversity of population, our geography, our economic activity, and it is my belief that in another 25 years, we'll have even more to celebrate. So thank you very much. Now, I did have the opportunity next to introduce the former Mayor Ron Holman. Ron actually spoke to me this morning. He apologized. He's had some surgery recently and felt that he was unable to attend today. But he did want to pass on his congratulations and appreciation to all the past folks, not just the members of council, but the staff, which has been very hardworking for us, and our many volunteers. I look around the room and I see key community volunteers from right across this township. And from my perspective, that's what makes us great. So Ron sends his best wishes to us. Now I'd like to welcome to the podium our first Reeve. Back then they were Reeves, they weren't mayors. And we have Reeve Howard French to say a few words. Welcome, Reeve.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and to any of our French friends that could be in the crowd, bonjour, mesdames et messieurs, and to our Dutch heritage folks that might be in the crowd, good middag, dames and heren. I'm going to start long before the amalgamation to kind of set the stage a little bit in my mind as to why I was so much involved and so interested in the amalgamation. In February 1976, I had an experience that caused me to devote some time thinking and reading about the philosophy, meaning, and origin of what is known as the Serenity Prayer. In its simplest version, it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the knowledge to change those that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. A couple of short weeks later, I listened to the dean of the college address the graduating class. In his address, he was crystal ball gazing for the turn of the century, 25 years out in time. This was 1976. His remarks that day were based on his understanding of demographics and how the baby boom generation were changing the socioeconomic impact in society as they lived through each phase of their lives. Some personal observations in our own community is that we know that the artificial insemination unit that is currently in Kempville was first started at Forfar on Concession 4, Lot 23 in Bastard Township. We also know that they exported the first frozen semen to Germany in 1958. And in 2021, there was $103 million worth of frozen semen exported from Canada around the world, and a lot of that came from farms from Leeds County. As were the frozen embryos exported from the farms in Leeds County and Rideau Lakes Township. So with amalgamation and with what we were going through, we know that the townships were surveyed in the 1800s, 1794 for Bastard, South Burgess, and the others were right around the same time. And we know that there was no more gasoline-powered freight trucks, that everything had switched to diesel. And we know that there was genetic improvements in soybeans to adapt to the clay soils and cooler climates in eastern Ontario, to yield a soybean crop that is the envy of North America, right here in eastern Ontario and in parts of Rideau Lakes Township. I attended OGRA, the Ontario Good Roads Association, many times, as well as the AMO conventions. And oftentimes there'd be 1,800 or 2,000 delegates in the big hall at the Royal York. And many of the delegates would go to the mic in the center of the floor and air their grievances to the province or to the provincial members that were speaking and finding fault with what they were trying to do and trying to help. That wore a little thin after a number of years of hearing that. And I think Mike Harris was brave enough to address the situation when he did what he said he was going to do. And he said, if you folks know better, then you take up the challenge and do it. So he didn't want to use the R word, which is regionalization from years ago. He talked in terms of amalgamation. And the province would approve, the message that was given to us was the province would approve whatever the local communities had decided upon. Well, I attended a St. Lawrence College course to learn about leadership and what it meant, and it was all the active verbs of demonstrating and showing and telling and seeing and helping and assisting and so on. But one of the other definitions that I have of leadership is looking at tomorrow, having a vision. You cannot lead yesterday as compared to management, which is looking after the outcomes of yesterday's decisions. In meetings with the Municipal Affairs Ministry advisors, they told us that if you can't make it happen in 18 months, you will not be successful in making it happen. Again, listening to the province, as you know, the municipalities were a child of the province, and that the province had children, they would treat us like adult children. My good friend Harold Tuck, who was the fire chief in the city of Brockville and the fire coordinator for Leeds Grenville, he told me several times, he said, we have a choice. One can stand out front and lead the parade, or sit on the curb and clap while watching the parade go by. Which do you want to do? I've always said there's more opportunity by being first or in the lead. There's a lot more glass in the windshield than there is in the rearview mirror. Eric Nielsen, Yukon Eric, was a member of the federal government for a number of years, representing the riding in the Yukon. And he served under 4 conservative prime ministers in government and under 3 prime ministers in opposition, liberal prime ministers. And he had some astute observations on leadership and leadership qualities and what it meant to be a leader. But his most succinct comment about leadership was that when he was going to outpost in his riding, driving a dog sled team, he observed that if you're not the lead dog, the scenery never changes. If you do the same old thing in the same old way, then how can you expect to get different results? I knew there was deadline dates, as did the other councillors that were sitting with us around the committee to work on the amalgamation. And we knew what the deadline dates were, so we established a Gantt chart which would monitor the tasks that had to be accomplished either concurrently or sequentially. And that was one of the processes that we used as a management tool to work through making this all happen. In November of 1997, I attended the Social Services Conference in Toronto, and the Deputy Minister of Social Services informed delegates the municipalities would be rated on their ability to meet change. He also advised the delegates that to deliver the services that were being downloaded, historically and normally delivered by the province, staff and councillors would need to think at an advanced level and develop an advanced level skill set. All this to meet the expectations of the taxpayer paying the bill. Yes, we did have to go to Toronto to meet with Minister Al Leach. The staff, after the election in 97 and prior to January 1st of 98, the staff recognized that we needed to get, I believe it was a roll number, identity number for the new township of Rideau Lakes, and that the province hadn't looked after that detail yet. So we did meet with Minister Al Leach and his assistants, and we did have an order in council passed before the end of the year, before the start of 1998, after the 1st of December. There was legal challenges over the proxy voting. Our legal counsel advised us that there is no law in Canada or Ontario that supersedes the authority of you, the electorate. That the democracy is in action. Two of the greatest happenings in our local community was amalgamation and recouping from the ice storm. Both events were best managed to a successful conclusion because of a collective understanding of process. As we attended the inaugural meeting, Ice Storm 98 was unfolding. A few months ago, I was asked by a member of the Township Heritage Committee to document my personal reflections of Ice Storm 98. I've done so. I think there's about 12 typed pages, so I won't bother with that today. Anyone would like a copy, then I can email it to you. Our local democracy is a work in progress. Democracy is the actions of choosing our community representatives to seek, create compromise in our public policy for the benefit of our citizens within the guidelines of the respective provincial legislation. Has it been a success? From many perspectives, I would give it a resounding yes. In a moment of levity, using Winston Churchill's comments as an example, during a Canadian press interview following a tour of the United States in the 1930s, Churchill was asked if he had any complaints about America. His comment was, toilet paper too thin, newspapers too fat. So, it all depends on perspective. Is there more to be done? Again, a resounding yes. And again, to quote Winston Churchill, in June of 1944, Churchill was responding in the House of Commons to a call not to repeat the mistakes made after the First World War. So he stood and he said, I am sure the mistakes of that time will not be repeated. We should probably make another set of mistakes. Like, what is left to do? Well, think in terms of one larger community. If, when unified, we act as cheerleaders, saying we are one, we are one, we are one. So much more strength when we are one. The greatest experiential life example of this was the week of sunshine in September 2007 at Crosby. We let the entire province know where we were located and who we were. I and others believe there is a need for leadership, education, and civics, understanding your role as a policy creator to give direction to staff, the policy implementer. The greatest education to bring diversity of thought and experience to the table is to experience life and continued learning outside of the local community. Perhaps one of the most important outcomes of the amalgamation process is how this community was positioned to become a significant key player at the county level. Back to demographics, the baby boom generation, land eminence, and long-term care. These two issues, these two services, were a tough sell around the county table at the time in 1998. But in my mind, absolutely necessary to look after our own. Why would we place our care in someone else's domain of responsibility? Our community goal should be to continue to focus on one community, on being a leader with thoughtful regard for the economic, social, heritage, and unique qualities of our Rideau Lakes community. I would like to read from my inaugural address from County Council in 1998, what I said back then. This is out of the minutes of the County Council, and I was saying that with myself being elected as the leader, I want to encourage the knowledge, insights, ideas, and talents of everyone involved so you can see the situation from a holistic approach. I want you to say at the end, we did it ourselves. Thank you to Marie White, who on behalf of the municipality invited me here today. I will tell a story that echoes my sentiments for today. And that's another quote from Winston Churchill. One of the reasons for this, folks, is that I was born on his 78th birthday, which happened to be November 30th, 1952. So this is his 80th birthday. A young man was sent to take his photograph. Full of awe, he breathed, "Sir Winston, it is wonderful to take your photograph on your 80th birthday, and I do look forward to taking it again on your 100th birthday." Kindly, the great man replied, "Young man, you appear to me to be in good health and sound in wind and limb, so I see no reason why you should not." On coming in today, I had a chance to meet Paddy O'Rourke over here, and with that name, I'm assuming he was Irish. Well, I know that this community, whether it's Bastard Township or any of the municipalities that were invited to be a part of Rideau Lakes, there's a lot of Irish as well. So this is Irish Gaelic for "have a nice day." Bia la magi. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Howard. Always words of wisdom and always entertaining. So that's it for the speeches, folks. It's not an election year, so we didn't have to make them any longer. But anyway, I would ask that the folks that had a chance to say a few words, if you would gather in front of our wonderful cake for a photo op, and then we can cut the cake, and everybody can have some tea, some coffee, and some. I understand it's awesome carrot cake made in Fort Farm.